Oh, I'm very happy that I could buy it easily here. Hi, my name is Leah. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I want to catch up on all the books that I've read in the months of January, February, and March. So yeah, let's dive into all the books that I've read. First, I'm gonna tie my hair. So I got this idea in the shower to film a video about all of the books that I read in the year of 2022. And I thought, why not do skincare while we sip coffee and chill together and talk about books. I have wrote down every single book that I've read so far, all 19 books in this notebook. Some of them I have reviewed on my blog, some of them I have reviewed only on Goodreads. If you want to check those out, links are in the description. So yeah, let's jump right in. Before I dive into the books, for my skincare, I'm a very simple person. It's not very complicated. So first of all, in my skincare routine, I usually do toner. For my toner, I use Pyeongkangyo Calming Deep Moisture Toner. It's almost empty. Let's start with the month of January. In January, I read 4 books. The first one is the first book to a series, and it is titled The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. The Ninth Reign is the first book to the Winnowing Flame series. The Ninth Reign is a multi-POV fantasy with a mix of sci-fi in it. I say sci-fi just because in this book there is an alien invasion. So in this world, there was a war, and during this war there was like an extraterrestrial kind of god that invaded the world. It tried to take over it, but during this war there was a race that defended everyone in the world. It comes with a cost. This race of people are dying because their tree god is dead. I know it's very chaotic from my description, but as you read the book, the world building itself is the mystery. So you as the reader will uncover the story bit by bit with the characters. The writing itself is very witty and very compelling and very gripping. It's very easy to get into this book. I love stories where you have to like figure out the world building as you go. The other kind of book that are similar to this is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. That book is also has the same vibe as The Ninth Reign, as you have to figure out the world building as you go. The characters itself in The Ninth Reign is very believable, and I loved how Jen Williams fleshed them out. They're very great and very fun. There is also a sapphic character in this one, which is the explorer. I forgot what her name was. You can check out my full review in the description, as my thoughts were much fresher when I was writing the review. I rated The Ninth Reign 4 out of 5 stars. The next one is This Is How You Lose in Time War by Amal, El-Mohtar, and Max Gladstone. This is a very short book. It is a sci-fi sapphic romance. It follows 2 characters, Red and Blue. Red and Blue are on the opposite sides of war. They're fighting each other, trying to win the war that has been going for years. The story starts off with them starting off a correspondence that they have back and forth, and these correspondences take in many forms. And the way that the writers described these letters are very creative, and they evolve as you read the letters. The writing is phenomenal. I think this book caters for a certain kind of palette. And definitely you need to be in a certain mood and a certain mindset to dive right in. I've read a few tweets from my friends on Twitter that say you don't know what is going on, and that is very true because you do need a bit more time to fully immerse yourself into the world. But the more you read the correspondence between red and blue, you kind of understand what they are and what the premise is about and what their end goal is in this war. I really like this book. I even wrote a review on it on my blog, just because it is so breathtaking, the relationship between red and blue, how it evolved throughout the years. It's very creative. It's not like any other book that I've ever read before. I highly recommend it, really. I think everyone should give it a try and read the book. I gave This Is How You Lose a Time War 5 out of 5 stars. And the third book that I read in January is The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. The Beautiful Ones is a historical fiction, fantasy, magical realism kind of book. It follows a young girl named Nina. The Beautiful Ones is similar to, I'd say, a Regency romance because of the setting and the vibe of the place and the etiquettes that are presented in the world. I really like The Beautiful Ones because of the main couple, Hector and Nina. Hector and Nina are both very fleshed out. I like their development. I really like Hector and Nina because there is so much yearning and longing between the two. I like that Nina was very feisty when it comes to Hector. She is the one that started their relationship, and I really like that Nina brought forth a goodness in Hector. Because Hector is a character that holds so much trauma from his past relationship. There's a lot of twists and scandals in this. There's a lot of manipulation as well by certain characters. Overall, The Beautiful Ones is a very fast read. There isn't a lot of magic in this book, but the magic is very subtle. If you mainly read romance, I think this is the perfect book for you if you want to dive into a little bit of fantasy, because the fantasy part is very minimal, but Silvia Moreno Garcia uses the fantastical elements so well. There is one scene in the book where it is the peak of the book. She uses the fantastical elements to describe the emotions between the characters so well. I just love Nina and Hector so much. I've read a different book by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and that is The Gods of Jade and Shadow. I like that these characters felt more human compared to Gods in Jade of Shadow, just because that book centers around a god, while this one is very like down to earth, and it deals between relationships, and it deals themes about relationship and the connections between people. So that's why I like this book more. I rated The Beautiful Ones 4 out of 5 stars. So the fourth book I read in the month of January is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. It is a historical fiction set in Tehran, Iran, during the revolution. The story of The Stationery Shop follows Roya and Bahman and their ever-evolving relationship throughout the years. There are twists that are involved within their relationship and how much family are involved in their relationship. I definitely picked up this book without knowing anything. I didn't expect to like The Stationery Shop as much as I did. And I only read this book just because I saw a mutual updated it on her Twitter saying that this book is very good. The story of The Stationery Shop is very compelling. It's very vivid. The writing is very beautiful. There are snippets of poems by Rumi within the book that I really like. What I loved about The Stationery Shop is the characters. I love the relationship between Roya and Bahman, and I love how their relationship evolved throughout the years. I think this book is a very compelling book that I highly recommend for anyone to read. If you want to know more of my thoughts regarding this book, you can check out my review on Goodreads in the links down below. I rated The Stationery Shop 5 out of 5 stars. Next is February. I need to put on moisturizer now. For moisturizer, I'm using the Calming Moisture Barrier Cream. I'm almost out. But also Pyongyang, it's in the same line. So the first book of February is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I had a hard time remembering this book. just because I read it in between my move from Indonesia to Canada. I read it during the end of January and then I finished it during the first week of February. Patroclus and Achilles are one of the prominent characters in Homer's poem The Iliad. It is set during the end of the Trojan War, or nearing the end of the Trojan War. Homer's Iliad is one of the most famous Greek poems out there. I don't know much about it, I never read about it, but before I read this book, I've read bits of tweets from people that kind of spoiled the story. I know it didn't have a happy ending. The ending is very tragic, and when I got to the ending, I didn't really cry. I don't have a certain attachment to the characters. This book is very hyped up by a lot of people on BookTweet, on Bookstagram, any kind of book platform out there. But for me, the story was kind of underwhelming. What made it underwhelming is the pacing. The story started out great. I really like the pacing during the start of the story, where we follow the early lives of Patroclus and Achilles before the war. And during the start of their relationship, the development was very compelling and I really liked it. It was very emotional seeing how they developed their relationship and how they fell in love with each other. And when I got about 50% in, I started to lose interest in this story because it slowed down a lot leading up to the war. And when the war broke out, I was fully immersed back into the story. Madeline Miller's writing is very emotional. They really knew how to grip your emotion and immerse you fully into their relationship and make you invest in them. But for me, because of the book is so hyped up to be like the book that would make you have a mental breakdown, for me, it didn't give me that much, you know. It didn't give me that feeling that was hyped up by a lot of people. It was hard for me to write a review for this book. I didn't even write it just because I didn't remember anything that happened during the start of this story. I rated The Song of Achilles 4 out of 5 stars. It was okay. Still liked it. And the ending was very, very explosive. So the next book that I read in the month of February is Pachinko by Min Jin-Lee. I read this book because of the adaptation and I wanted to know the story before I watched the series. But I haven't watched the series at all because I don't have the attention span for shows right now. So the story of Pachinko spans 60 years following the life of one Korean family that is centered around the matriarch Sunja and their life as they survive many tragedies during the Korean War and the Japanese invasion, and the many prejudices and xenophobia that they experience in Japan as they try to make a life for themselves there, and how they evolved and survived from poverty to the end of the story where the family is well off. Min Jin-Lee's writing is very to the point. She doesn't shy away from showing the horrors and the many struggles that are experienced by... I really like Pachinko and I really enjoyed reading it. The story of Pachinko itself is very immersive. The writing is very beautiful. I like the pacing. Even though it took me a while to get into the story fully, I completely immersed myself because I really liked how the characters developed throughout the years. It gave a lot of insight about women and the many struggles they have during this very hard time period. I definitely highly recommend for you to read the book. I don't know if you need to read the book first or watch the show. I personally say read the book so you'll know more. I rated Pachinko 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is The Forest of Stolen Girls by Jun He. It is a library book that is included in a previous video I did. The Forest of Stolen Girls is a murder mystery set in the island of Jeju during the Joseon period, I think. It follows a young girl as she goes back to Jeju to uncover the mystery surrounding her father's death, and during her visit she also reconnects with her estranged sister that was separated from her during her childhood, where she grew up in the city while her sister grew up on the island. The mystery itself was very gripping during the first half of the story, but the second half there was a bit of pacing issues that was really hard to get through. I found myself figuring out the mystery before the ending of the book. The twist wasn't very compelling enough for me. Even though I've had a lot of issues with the twist, I still really enjoyed reading the book. But I'd say out of Jun-He's the 3 books that I've read by Jun-He, 2 of them are The Red Palace that was released this year, and this book, I'd say The Forest of Stolen Girls isn't one of my favorites. I really like The Red Palace. I really like that one more because the mystery is more gripping, while this one, it felt a little more weak, but I still enjoyed it, and I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read is a graphic novel titled The Magic Fish by Trung Lee Nguyen. The Magic Fish is a story that follows a young boy and his relationship with his mother. The Magic Fish is a coming out story. It is very heartwarming. The illustrations are very beautiful, and contained within the story is multiple stories that is shared between the main character and his mother. The story itself is very cute. I found myself enjoying it. I was reading it with my boyfriend and we really liked the story, but I have to say The Magic Fish falls in the category of okay. I like The Magic Fish, but something about the story didn't really connect with me. It's not about the themes that didn't connect with me, it's more of the pacing and the narrative. I didn't understand how these stories are, how this activity between the son and the mother, where they found a common ground to read books together, can connect to the major theme of this story. It is a coming out story, but I just didn't see the connection there. I thought that it felt forced, and it was pretty rushed during the ending, even though the ending was very touching. I felt that the author could have done more to the story and give its character more life instead of using them as plot devices to get to this major theme of the book. So yeah. I rated The Magic Fish 4 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read in the month of February is a non-fiction book, and it is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. It is a memoir written by the survivor of the Sanford sexual assault case. The writing in this book is just phenomenal. The raw accounts by Chanel as she writes about her experience during the trials and everything that she has to go through as a victim. The way Chanel describes the long, harrowing process of going through the trials and the many struggles she has to cope with the trauma that she has gone through is very personal. It's very emotional. It's very powerful. I've known about Chanel Miller from reading her victim impact statement. I find her writing to be very powerful and full of strength and passion, and it is very raw, and I highly recommend for you to pick it up when you're in a very clear mental state, as it is a very heavy book to get through. I recommend listening to the audiobook more. I feel like that would make the process less painful for you because I read the physical book that I borrowed from the library. It took me a lot of mental power to get through it. I'm glad I finished it and I really loved it. I rated Know My Name 5 out of 5 stars. We're going into the month where I read the most this year, and it is March. So next is serum. I use the Ordinary for my serums, and it is the niacinamide serum. So the first book I read in the month of March is Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. It is the second book to the Raybearer series. The sequel was released last year, and I read a lot of reviews prior to reading this book. A lot of my friends have said that this book wasn't as compelling as the first one, and for that I agreed, but I wouldn't say it experienced second book syndrome. I'd say the quality fell a bit down from the first one. It wasn't a lot. So the story of Redemptor picks up right after the incidents that happened in the first book, and the story takes on a more personal note than the first one. I'd say it's very character-centered. It sheds light on the development of Tarisai as a powerful political figure in this story, and it also shines a light on her relationship with her found family. What made this story lack the same grip it had on me as the first book is the introduction of this one character that is mainly used to push Tarisai's development overall. I didn't like how Tarisai's struggles seemed more one-noted in this book, though it explored the many facets of her struggle. It still felt one-noted. She comes back to the same excuses, that's what I'm trying to say. Though I liked how it ended and I liked how her development is handled, it still didn't have the same kind of impact it had on me when I read the first book. I rated Redemptor 4 out of 5 stars. It was originally 3.5, but I rounded it up to 4 just because I still enjoyed it, even though there was a lot of bumps on the road. The next book I read is an arc, and it is The Jade Setter of Janloon by Fonda Lee. It is one of my most anticipated releases. I have pre-ordered the limited edition of this book. It is a novella set in the Greenbone Saga world. It follows new characters. The story follows the perspective of an apprentice of a jade setter in Janloon. Duh. This novella is very action-packed. I really loved it. As you can see from my rec, I'm a huge fan of Fonda Lee. I loved the Greenbone Saga so much. I wrote lengthy reviews for all 3 books. So when Fonda Lee announced this book, I immediately jumped on it because I was coming off the high from reading Jade Legacy. I just really wanted to be in Janloon again. This book is a very good introduction for readers that wants to get into the Greenbone Saga but doesn't want to commit fully to the series. I'd say pick up this book first and then pick up the series after. But for returning readers that have read the series, you'll be thrusted into the vibrant city of Janloon again. You get to see past characters from the series, and you could bask in their greatness. I'd say my favorite interaction in this book involves Hilo, a well-loved character from the series. I also loved him. I also love him so much. Seeing all the characters back. Oh my god. Seeing the characters again on page was very, very heartwarming. I really loved it. Of course, it's a Fonda Lee book. Of course, there will be action, there will be blood. It is a Fonda Lee book, so you can't really expect what's gonna happen. None of the characters are safe. It is very action-packed, even though it's not a lot of action compared to the series. Fonda Lee utilizes the the action scenes really well. And I would say this book is a good way to show new readers what to expect from the Greenbone Saga, and it's many unpredicted happenings. So yeah, I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read, I DNF'd, and it is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. This is my first ever Sally Rooney book. I borrowed it from the library. I read 15 pages of it and I didn't like it. Something about the writing and the very dry delivery of the story really bothered me, so I just stopped reading it. And probably I will not read. Probably I will read Sally Rooney's other books, but I don't know, because her writing is very hard to get into for me personally. So yeah, let's see. So the next book I read is a compilation of short stories titled The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez. It is a library book. So The Dangers of Smoking in Bed is a translated horror anthology by Mariana Enriquez. It consists of 10 to 11 horror stories. Because it is a compilation of short stories, there are some stories that are favorites, some I didn't like that much. I liked the first 5 stories, but the rest were pretty questionable. It got really predictable and the pacing got really monotone, and I didn't really enjoy the last few stories, so I rated The Dangers of Smoking in Bed 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is another arc, and it is Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. This book is just released on the 29th of March. It is a Great Gatsby retelling with a witchy sapphic twist. The premise itself is very interesting. It follows a young woman that goes to an island to settle her late father's estate. In this world that Francesca May created, magic is illegal. Oh, the story takes place during the Prohibition era, but instead of alcohol, what is prohibited is magic and witchcraft. But on this specific island, magic is thriving, and long story short, the main character meets this witch that is very alluring and has pulled her in, and they develop a relationship. I feel like I should have DNF'd this book, but I kept on reading it because I have the arc. So during the first half, I was very gripped and I was so immersed into the story, and I really liked the descriptions of this island, and I really liked how the first meeting between the two characters were handled. But then it started going downhill. I really like characters over plot. I don't really care if the plot is convoluted, as long as the characters are very compelling and very believable. I would be invested in the story. But with Wild and Wicked Things, the characters are very weak. There are 2 perspectives in the story. One is the young girl that is settling her father's estate, and the other one is the witch that she falls in love with. And the witch is hyped up as this character that is very alluring, mysterious, strong. But she fell flat, in my opinion, just because this character has a struggle that she keeps repeating over and over. And I felt that her character became so one-dimensional that I could not oversee it. And it really distracted me from fully investing in the relationship of this main couple. And it made their relationship not so believable. And there's this thing shared between the main character and this witch person that is repeated over and over. It's kind of like a sensation that they feel for each other that didn't make sense at all. And it is conveniently used as a plot tool to settle the main conflict of the story. And I didn't like how it was handled. It was not believable enough for me. So I rated Wild and Wicked Things 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is a very short non-fiction book, and it is M by Kim Doi. This book is very short. It's about 180 pages or something. I borrowed it from the library. What immediately caught me was the cover. I randomly picked it up because I saw it on the library rack. I finished it in a day. I really enjoyed it. The book tells a story about women and children that were impacted by the Vietnam War and their testimonies and their experiences, how they survived and how their journey unfolded during this war. The author wrote this book with the intention of telling the stories of the heritage and the history of the people that fled Vietnam to escape the war. I found that the writing is very compelling, and I like the formatting of the chapters. There's a lot of chapters in this book, but each chapter is about 2 to 3 pages long, and it accounts the stories of many people and how they grew up and how they escaped, and their heritage and their history. It's just beautiful. I highly recommend it. I rated 4 out of 5 stars. Next is another arc. It is one of my most anticipated releases. It is Kaikei by Vaishnavi Patel. The story of Kaikei is a reimagining of the epic Hindu Sanskrit poem Ramayana. Ramayana is a very famous story, especially in Hindu mythology. I've known about the story of Ramayana since I was a kid. It is a very famous story that has been adapted in many forms. And in Kaikei, we shift that perspective from Rama to one of the most villainized characters, Kaikei. I didn't know about Kaikei because the version that was told when I was a kid centers around Rama and Sinta. So yeah, it was very intriguing when I read this book. And in this debut, the writing is very immersive, the world is very vivid, the characterizations are very strong. I like the themes that were weaved into this, mainly the feminist themes that are written into the character arc of Kaikei and her ascension to power as she becomes one of the most important figures in the kingdom. From the very first line, it really solidifies how good this book is. It really sets the tone of the story, and the development of Kaikei is very phenomenal. She has become one of my favorite characters in fantasy. She is very smart, resourceful, and there are fantastical elements into this. Kaikei has become one of my favorite characters in fantasy. She defies the destiny that is written about her life. She basically defies the destiny that is set in stone for her. She is a very powerful woman that fights for her right and fights for her accomplishments. She didn't need divine power to help her ascend to power or help her in accomplishing a lot of things in the book. Definitely this is one of the best debuts so far this year, and I highly recommend for you to pre-order a copy. I find the vibe that I got from Kaikei the same as when I read She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. It is a story about greatness and how you achieve it and how you fight for it and how you defy expectations, from other people, and it is just an amazing story. I rated Kaikei 5 out of 5 stars. Order it, please. So the last book I read in the month of March, it is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. The story is about a retired adventurer that opens up a cafe. And in this cafe, she builds relationships, and it is a story about found family. I found out about Legends and Lattes after reading like reviews from friends on Goodreads. From the premise itself, you can already know that this book is very comforting. I read this book when I was going through a lot of wedding planning and I was very much stressed. I was so happy I picked this up because it is a book that offered a safe place for me to rest and just relax and just read. I really love Travis Baldry's characterizations. I loved all the side characters that were involved in building this cafe and helping it thrive. I really enjoyed this book. It is so comforting, and I really like the descriptions of food in this, and I like the I like the relationship between the characters. My favorite character is the baker. He is so cute and he comes up with the best food. There is sapphic romance as well included in this story, and it is like a comfort blanket for me. I will definitely reread this. I am so happy it got acquired by Thor. Now more people could read this book. I'm so excited as well because Travis Baldry has revealed that he is going to make a series out of this. I'm pretty sure. I'm so excited to see the characters again because I love them so much. The cover itself is also very awesome. I highly recommend for you to pick up this book because there isn't a lot of books that are like Legends of Lattes. Legends and Lattes is definitely unlike any fantasy book I've ever read, and I didn't know that I needed a book about a retired adventurer opening up a cafe until now. I rated Legends and Lattes 5 out of 5 stars. That is all the books that I read in January, February, and March. I know I finished my skincare way before I finished this list. My skincare routine is very, very short, y'all. I only use 3 products. Look, 1, 2, 3. I don't need a lot of products. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me if you want more videos like this, or maybe we could do something else besides me doing a very short skincare routine. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, or you're planning to read it, or you're planning to pre-order a few of the arcs that I've mentioned below. Again, I have linked all of the reviews of the books that I've read down below for you to check out. It's been an eventful 3 months, and I'm so happy I read these many books, and I'm planning on reading a lot of stuff. Stay tuned for more videos in the future. I'm still figuring out on how I want to do my wrap-up videos. I want to do monthly ones, but I think that is still too much for me. So probably I will do like these compilations of wrap-ups every 3 months. I think that's more manageable for me. Hopefully I can post more videos on this channel. I know I've been busy in March because of all the wedding planning. Yes, I am married. I forgot to say that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye!